I ultimately cost a soldier his career, his marriage, and $80. 000. And it all started with a fender bender I would have paid him $500 to simply walk away from. I was a civilian contractor for the US military, stationed overseas in Asia. Like many other Americans working on the base, I lived in a nearby apartment complex. One morning, my life took a sharp turn when I backed my car into another vehicle in the parking lot. As I stepped out, a quick survey confirmed two things. First, both of our cars were what you could call a hoop tie. A hoop tie is basically an old, beat-up car that gets passed down from one service member to the next, usually selling for $1,000 or $2,000. Second, the accident was entirely my fault. It was minor, his rear bumper had a slight dent, but both our engines were still running just fine. The other driver, a soldier in uniform, was already out of his car. I approached him immediately, apologized, and tried to de-escalate. "Look," I said, "I'm really sorry about this. If it's all right with you, I'd rather we just handle this between us. I'll pay you in cash. No need to get authorities or insurance involved. I've always believed that for a minor fender bender, a simple agreement is the best way to go. Honestly, the damage was so minimal I half expected him to just wave it off. He wasn't having it. He insisted on calling the police. "We can do that," I said, trying to keep things simple. "Or we could drive over to the base right now, and I can give you $300 from the ATM." He scoffed. "That's not enough." I was willing to be generous just to make the problem disappear. "Okay. How about $500? As one commenter later perfectly put it, $500 was you being generous and he had to go wreck his life worse than the vehicle. He responded to my offer by punching me square in the face. It was a complete sucker punch. Before I could even process what happened, he jumped back in his car, peeled out, and nearly ran me over as he fled the scene. The soldier made a decision at that moment, fueled by a rage he couldn't control, completely unaware that this single punch would be the first domino to fall, leading to his own complete ruin. What he didn't know was that I had a black box camera in my car. It recorded everything. I drove straight to the provost marshal's office on base, the military police station, and reported both the accident and the assault. I showed the MP on duty the footage. They took one look at his license plate and knew exactly how to find him. The MP asked if I wanted to press criminal charges with the local off-base authorities. I thought about it. My goal wasn't to destroy the guy. It was for him to learn a lesson. I figured letting the military's own justice system, the UCMJ, handle it would be sufficient. Not at this time, I told them, knowing the option was still on the table. The military acted fast. The soldier received his punishment, 60 days of extra duty, a reduction in rank, and forfeiture of a portion of his pay. In my mind, that was it. He took his lumps, and the whole ordeal was over. I was wrong. A few days later, I was shopping at the commissary, the on-base grocery store, when I saw him. The soldier who assaulted me spotted me from across an aisle and immediately started yelling insults. I told him to calm down and that he should have learned his lesson. "You're a pussy who doesn't know how to take a punch." He spat back. This is classic bully logic. As someone pointed out in the comments later, I sucker punch you and run away equals not a pussy. You report me to the authorities equals pussy. I reminded him that I had deliberately held back from ruining his life by not involving the local police. He just laughed. "I've already been punished," he said. "You can't touch me again." Then he walked off. A store employee had witnessed the whole thing. I got their details and went straight to the soldier's command to report the incident. His commander was not pleased. He informed me the soldier had been given a direct order not to interact with me and promised to take action. Then, he gave me some advice that changed everything. He recommended I involve the local civilian authorities, because this soldier clearly wasn't getting the message. I got the distinct feeling that I wasn't the first person to have a problem with this guy. So I did. I hired a local attorney. He was initially hesitant, saying these cases could be tough to win and that he'd need a cash retainer up front. It wasn't cheap. But by now, I was angry. This guy needed a real lesson. I agreed to the terms. This was the point of no return. The moment the conflict escalated from an internal military matter to an international legal battle, a battlefield where his uniform offered him no protection. We ended up in a local court off base. The soldier decided to represent himself. A disastrous choice. He had several angry outbursts during the proceedings, which did him no favors. The evidence was clear, especially my black eye and his behavior after the fact. The judge, taking into account the circumstances and perhaps the fact that this was happening in an Asian country where courts tend to award high settlements against foreigners they assume can pay, granted me a judgment of approximately $50,000. The amount even shocked my lawyer. When the judgment was read, the soldier exploded. He called the judge a son of a bitch and yelled that the army would protect him. This reveals the soldier's greatest fatal flaw, his blinding arrogance. A deep-seated belief that the rules didn't apply to him, which ultimately sealed his fate in front of a judge who held all the power. The judge calmly looked at him, then at the court documents. He changed the judgment to $80,000. Then he turned to me and asked if, in light of everything, I also wanted the state to press criminal charges. It was obvious this guy would never learn. I said yes. My lawyer later gave me another piece of brilliant advice. To make sure I ever saw that money, he said we should pursue an international hold. He explained it meant the soldier would be legally barred from leaving the country until the $80,000 was paid in full. Crucially, due to an agreement between the U.S. and the host country, the U.S. military would be obligated to honor the hold. They couldn't just ship him back to the States to protect him from the consequences. By this point, I was thousands of dollars deep in legal fees and had used up vacation days for court. I wanted my money back. I told my lawyer to go for it. A month later, the hold was granted. 2 months after that, the criminal case concluded. For the assault, the soldier was sentenced to 90 days in a local jail. Because foreigners in this country are rarely given suspended sentences like a local might receive, he was going to serve real time. I remember the day I was told the MPs formally handed him over to the local authorities to begin his sentence. And through all of this, he still owed me $80,000. Things went quiet for a year. Then, I got a call from his commander, asking me to come in and make a formal statement for their records. It was during that meeting that I learned the military was in the process of chaptering him out, formally discharging him. The commander also mentioned the soldier was getting close to having the money to pay me so he could finally get the international hold lifted. A few weeks later, I got a message from his ex-wife. I knew he had been married when this all started. I guess the stress of a jail sentence, a huge debt, and a ruined career didn't help his marriage. She said her ex-husband had the money and needed my details to make the payment. I provided the information. And a few days later, the full $80,000 landed in my account. I confirmed the payment with her. And she asked for a formal receipt so he could get the hold lifted and return to the United States. I was curious. So I asked her how he managed to get that much money. She told me he had maxed out all his credit cards and borrowed heavily from his family. During our conversation, she also confirmed that the army had officially chaptered him out. His military career was over. I sent the receipt. And that was the last I ever heard from any of them. So, to recap, a simple fender bender I tried to solve for $500 led to him getting UCMJ action. A civil judgment for $80,000. 90 days in jail. A divorce. A mountain of debt. And the end of his career. As for me, I took his $80,000. Bought myself a brand new car. And used the rest as a down payment on an investment property. Ultimately, this story is a stark reminder that a moment of unchecked aggression can completely unravel an entire life. It shows that sometimes the most powerful response isn't to trade blows, but to step back, use the system, and let a person's own arrogance deliver the final knockout. Have you ever seen someone snatch defeat from the jaws of victory with their own arrogance? Share your story in the comments below.